Ready? Play.
I want one more thing from you, Francisca. Can you look at the camera, and I want you to say, I am Francisco Jorge, and I am a friend of the show. Can you try it?
I am Francisca Jorge, and I'm a friend. Wait.
Go. It's okay.
I'm Francisca Jorge, and I'm a fan of the show.
One more time. Can you say, I'm a friend of the show? Friend, like amigo.
Brenner, let's skip it because you played the long version. And it's like 2 minutes.
So well, I think it wasn't even the long version. It was just like unfiltered, unedited.
No, but it's like 1 minute and 53, and the one we usually use is like 45 or whatever. For some reason,
there it is. It's at the top.
These bubbles today.
It's at the top.
I don't know if we should fix that or not, but I guess it's fine.
Oh, this situation.
We're in a submarine. We're in a submarine.
Exactly. It's a new look, and I like it. But anyway, welcome in to ATP Weekly. We are here joined by Damian, of course, and we're going to be breaking down, I guess, the biggest stories from Rome. And we will do a little bit at the end talking about Hamburg and Geneva. So I guess without further ado, let's just go to what we want to talk about, which is Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner. Sinner makes his return, and, you know, we kind of hyped it up in terms of he's going to have a couple of tough matches, even from the get-go. You know, it was Navone, and we thought it was going to be Fokina, but ends up being Jesper de Jong. And then, you know, it's that Cerundolo clash that we were all kind of waiting for to really get a look at his level. And he passed that test kind of with flying colors. And then, you know, the final 2 rounds kind of posed a different sort of challenge and threat because, you know, once you get past that third kind of match, it's like, okay, how is your match fitness? How are you going to respond to just being in maybe more of a pressurized environment per se once you get to the later rounds? But of course, being in Rome, having the crowd support, you know, he obviously enjoyed the moment and made it to the final. And on the other side of it, it was Carlos Alcaraz, who comes through and now has taken the last 4 meetings between the two. Damian, what is your biggest takeaway coming out of Rome?
I mean, yeah, it's there's definitely a few. Obviously, just the fact that we got them playing, you know, and then in terms of like the lead up to Roland Garros, I think it's perfect. It's clear that they are still, maybe this is the biggest takeaway actually, that they are still far and above the rest of the field. Like, you cannot sit down after watching this event and tell me that somebody is close to the winning chances of Sinner and Alcaraz at Roland Garros. They will once again, like, even if they're playing at 80%, they will be dominating. If one loses, it's very likely that the other picks up the title. A final between them, maybe it will finally happen at a Grand Slam. Of course, we haven't seen that yet. Actually, until this week, we hadn't seen a final between them at the ATP 1000 level either. So maybe that's the biggest takeaway. And then in terms of them actually clashing against each other, I think it was a good intel for both of them in terms of like where they are in relation to each other, especially for Sinner, who of course was just coming back. And well, we can assume that he's going to get sharper from here ahead of Roland Garros. But yeah, I do think that still, even for Carlos, it was kind of nice to just get this one, obviously confidence-wise, but also just, see what sort of a challenge will be for him. It will be awaiting for him potentially at Roland Garros. And yeah, if you're asking about the biggest takeaway, I think it's just that nobody is close to these two guys at the moment.
Right. And I think, I mean, I guess maybe we'll save some thoughts for Roland Garros a bit later, but obviously, I guess the main thing also from the end of the match is, like, we know who the true favorite is going into Roland Garros, and, you know, who has that upper hand. And now it's, you know, the last 4 times and make that 2 finals. I guess out of the 3, they've met in 3 finals. First one was Umag. But now, yeah, I mean, Carlos he should feel that upper hand. Obviously, it has so much respect for Sinner and understands, like, that's the guy who's going to, you know, continue to push him to be better and be the best player he can be. So I think it's obviously important for the tour, and we're getting to that time of the season where, you know, just the importance and kind of the sport there's a lot more hype around it and, more eyes on it. So, I mean, I guess from a, viewer's perspective, you're happy kind of where tennis is at. If you're a Sinner fan, you have work to do in terms of, dethroning Carlos Alcaraz and obviously the two big majors that he's going to be defending. So, yeah, that's a little bit of that. I'm sure we'll get more into those names. But I guess let's go to the defending Rome champ, Sasha Zverev. It wasn't, it wasn't amazing from him. I guess we'll start with kind of form. He is playing in Hamburg this week. He got in as a wild card. So he, a guy who likes to play probably the most matches on tour is Zverev. Where do you see him after Rome, Damian?
Not much, honestly, in terms of potential info, really. The fact that he's even playing Hamburg is somewhat weird considering his previous quotes, about who put this event next to Roland Garros, what sort of an idea is that? I think he called it stupid even. And now he's actually playing it. And I think in the past he also said that any real French Open contender shouldn't be there. Well, I mean, the fact that he changed his mind, obviously, besides this being in his hometown, I think simply means that he felt like he needed it. The fact that he lost that title, well, it wasn't fully in his hands, but of course it means that he's going to be number 3 at Roland Garros, not number 2, which is going to be somewhat vital, as basically he cannot now, just avoid one of Sinner Alcaraz. He definitely will have both in his projected draw. So that's pretty, huge. And in terms of getting outplayed by Musetti, Lorenzo, much more versatile, much more ballsy as well in that match. But yeah, just somebody who has so many different game plans and ways to abuse maybe a player like Zverev, who tends to hide in his turtle mode in some matches. I do think it was, certainly a match between two of the best players in the world right now on clay, not Sinner Alcaraz levels, but two of the contenders for Roland Garros. So it's not like he's in a horrible spot. It's just, it's been a year since he had that French Open final. And I know he's been in the Australian Open final as well, but it doesn't feel like he's in a stronger position to finally win that first slam right now than he was last year. It feels like the edge between him and Alcaraz and Zverev has only gotten wider. So that's a problem. But is he still in the mix? I mean, personally, for me, he's probably still number 3 favorite, maybe. But let's be clear, there's a big, big gap with Alcaraz, Sinner, and then Zverev. It's a massive gap between them. So it's not like last year when everybody was seriously thinking about him winning Roland Garros. I think right now it's more like, well, yeah, but if he avoids Sinner and Alcaraz, maybe it becomes a possibility.
Right. And to be honest, I'm right there with you. I said it before. I mean, Zverev is the number 3 for me, but yeah, as you mentioned, it's just such a wide gap from that 2 to 3 spot, and then the gap between the 2 and maybe even 7 or 3 and 7 is just a very big cluster, and I think Zverev just edges out because of experience, surface, and I guess just his ability, definitely across 5 sets, but. Looking back on this Rome draw, I feel like we actually got a good sense in terms of, the top players, making it deep enough to, go against one another. Obviously, Casper Ruud winning Madrid. Obviously, it's an awesome achievement, but it didn't necessarily help him out for his chances in Rome, where he felt like he kind of just gassed out against Sinner. It was obviously a match that kind of opened eyes for people. In the tennis community in terms of how does Casper look at himself, what's kind of his confidence level going into Roland Garros. Now, I'm just curious for you, Damian, what's your take on, Casper Ruud and his situation?
Yeah, of course, it was a pretty brutal defeat that he had against him, for sure. That he had against Sinner. It was also, I think, one of these instances where it just, the crash has to come at some point. I mean, he won so many matches in Madrid, and then basically at some point, the physical, the mental fatigue, it has to come into play. I know some people are just like kind of coming out and saying that his attitude towards these matches against the top guys isn't the best either. I kind of second that. But either way, this was just, a pretty expected burnout after that Madrid run. In many ways over the course of this clay season, Casper just put himself in contention for the French again in terms of, a deep run. But the question becomes if he can beat Sinner and Alcaraz, and personally, I don't think he will. Is it only a question of attitude? Oh, definitely not. I think it's still way more about the game. But he also doesn't tend to be like the most, let's say, he doesn't believe in himself, I think, as much as these guys do. And that's also part of the issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, in terms of Ruud, like his game is very difficult to play against, especially across 5 sets. And that's where I feel like, he has that edge on a lot of like, I guess, the inferior opponents. But yeah, when you come up against the top guns, like you need to have weaponry that allows you to at least like insert yourself into the match a little bit more, gain confidence and rhythm. And it was just obviously everything but that. But I felt like he was at least trying to play his game against Sinner, but it never really got going. And, before we knew it, it was over. But I mean, I still, feel confident for Ruud. He is kind of my 4th in the power rankings just because of, that ability to, stretch his level, consistency across 5 sets. So that's where I stand with him. Let's move on to Francisco Cerundolo, another player who is playing in Hamburg this week. A little bit surprising, but I did read something about kind of like an ATP 500 bonus. Are you familiar with that at all, Damian? Playing a number of...
I think Fields got it last year maybe, but honestly, for players who are winning these events, no, I mean, they really shouldn't care about that, in my opinion. I'm actually like in let's say real life, in politics, I'm a huge capitalist, but if I'm looking at this, it's just millionaires making more money, it really doesn't matter that much if, I don't know, Francisco Cerundolo or Arthur Fields win an extra pocket. And I don't think they should be looking at that either. To me, it's a little weird that Fran is playing this, to be honest. I do think that he probably shouldn't be doing this simply because, well, he has a great chance of going deep. He is in like the best form really of his life. He's won, almost as many matches as Carlos Alcaraz this year. Obviously, with a fair few losses as well, but simply winning winning a match, or in fact, winning 2 matches in almost every event he's played. I think he's been incredible. And I'm just, worried that after such a clay season, he might just kind of come up short at the French. But he knows his body the best. I mean, the last 2 seasons, 4th round at the French, very close to making the quarters last year as well with that 5-setter against Novak. I think these are matches that this year he might possibly win. And from my perspective, it seems like Hamburg is just not necessary if this is your kind of like, if this is where you are with your game. But clearly he thought otherwise, and he's probably going to go deep in Hamburg as well. In fact, he's already won a match over Pedro Martinez. So, I mean, I think he deserves to be in like a top 10 of contenders for the French, which might sound a little weird, but no, I mean, this is just how well the guy is playing right now and how high his ceiling is.
Yep. And I'm going to echo kind of everything you said in terms of, I mean, what stands out to me. I just think there has to be something maybe a little bit bigger in terms of why he is playing this event. And that's all, I guess I'm poking at, because I'm just curious. Like, the guy has played the most tennis on tour this season, which is it's great. It's because he's winning a lot and, he's entering events. But yeah, this event, it just feels weird, obviously getting changed before Roland Garros. And yeah, I mean, Fran's level has been there week in and week out, since Australia. So I just don't know why he's pushing himself and his body, especially because I was poking an eye at the Martinez Cerundolo match while the Sinner Alcaraz final was going on, and it was sloppy. As our producer is talking about Pedro Martinez, what has happened to him? They were exchanging breaks, and I genuinely thought, like, all right, he might as well just, give him this win and rest up. But I mean, anyway, I obviously I'm a fan of Cerundolo. He, plays such a sturdy game from the baseline. And I think it was after the win versus Zverev in Madrid is when I was like, that's the type of level that could have beat Djokovic, last year. And, he's just, like you said, he's playing the best tennis of his life. His form is so good. His foundation has like only increased in terms of, back in the, or I guess, earlier years, like it was just fluctuating so much. Now we kind of have such a higher baseline of his level, and it surely only goes up, in 2025. So same with me. He's in that cluster in terms of being, 5th through 8th in that sense. And that's just something we're going to have to monitor. We'll see how this week goes for him. Let's move on. I mean, I feel like this is worth touching on, but Berrettini, injury riddled season yet again. Nothing like major, but it's got to be frustrating going out there, giving it your all, and just knowing you only have, 12, 13 games in you. Obviously there's positives to take from the season. I think it was Dubai or Doha when he took down Djokovic, and I was like, all right, we have a chance here with this season. And, the clay season hasn't gone as well, but grass season, I guess, around the corner soon. Any thoughts to talk about with Matteo Berrettini?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, I think he's been pretty relevant this Madrid-Rome run, mostly because he just retired a couple of times. But either way, I mean, he wasn't really a guy I think we were, thinking of as a title contender for either this or Roland Garros. So, I don't really treat him as somebody in the mix, to be honest with you right now. Obviously, part of that is just like physical, but maybe for Wimbledon, maybe for that, he gets his groove going again. Last year, if he doesn't draw Sinner in the second round, where does he reach? It's a good question, but yeah, of course, we'll never know. Maybe this time it will be a bit better. Did we lose Brenner? I think we might have. Anyway, not sure what he was planning to talk about next, but obviously I think Alcaraz and Sinner as well still remain as players or the match that we didn't really get to start talking about. In the title of the video, you have a couple of big time questions as well regarding Alcaraz or the field or Sinner's loss being about levels. I think while Sinner's loss definitely is a lot about like the much sharpness that he was lacking. Some of his returning was not quite as good as usual. But I think it also showed some of the usual issues that he has against Alcaraz, right? I mean, Sinner is just amazing in terms of shot for shot quality of the baseline. Like, there's nobody better than him on the tour right now. But Carlos has the variety, has the intangibles, has all the ability to like throw him off with the pace, with any variation of height, pace, spin, rhythm. And he was able to do that once he got more confident after surviving that 5-6 game in the first set. I just started talking about the final when you were gone.
I just lost power, so we'll see how
we
do. But I guess this is we'll keep going. And our producer just posed a good question, which is, do you think Alcaraz? Well, I guess that's an interesting question. I think maybe the other way around, but do you think Alcaraz has a tactic to beat Sinner? Or I guess the producer is also thinking about, is Carlos just going to throw a bunch of variety at him and kind of take what he gets?
Because the power isn't quite back yet. No, I mean, I guess I understand the question a little bit different. Oh, no, that's my internet. Cool. That's...
No, I hear you. Right. Does he have a game plan going in? Is I guess how I'm seeing the producer's question. Oh, now we're dealing with multiple power outages per se. I'm working off the hotspot here, so we'll see how that goes. Or is it me? I have no clue.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, this time it was me apparently. Yeah. Anyway, what do you mean a tactic? I mean, that's kind of a really bad way of putting it, I think, because it doesn't come down to one thing, right? And it will also depend on the surface, on even the tournament. Obviously, last year when they played in Indian Wells, it was. I mean, if you want to just come down to like one tactic, it's gonna be not allowing Sinner to play in a constant baseline rhythm, right? Just like throwing him off his timing, which can be done in many different ways. In Roland Garros, he was playing like pretty much moonballs of the backhand. In Indian Wells, it was the backhand slice that was quite important. And here, I believe once he actually got confident, yeah, there was a lot more variety in that. He's not afraid of playing the long point against Sinner, which is so important. I mean, his focus is just at another level. And he also, gave a good quote about this after the final, I think, where it just says, against Sinner, I cannot afford to just mess up. I cannot afford to just go off on 5-minute stretches of playing BS like I usually do. In fact, I mean that's just my words, not his, but that's what he said, just in other sentences, in other phrases. But I think he's very much aware of that. Just plays much safer. He's not afraid of doing what we always want him to do, which is like fall back and rely on his athleticism, rely on the fact that he can just start the point and then just take it with either a magical shot or like a massive forehand, which he has in his arsenal, and there's absolutely no need to kind of like go all or nothing as he does against some other players. And I do think that's especially what he does here. And when he got confident in the second set, he certainly just started showing that whole versatility advantage that he has, and how simply he is like a better thinker on the court for now, which is wild again, because Carlos is not really somebody we usually think of when we think of players adjusting mid-match. But against Sinner, he suddenly becomes the best tactician on the planet. Of course, it wasn't easy for him to get into that mode. You had that 5-6 game where I think he's just trying to get through. Like, there's nothing that Carlos is doing there, really. It's just trying to survive that. And then, you have this moment of magic, the volley that he hits to win the opening set. Of course, I'm not talking about the final pickup with the forehand, but rather I don't know why I showed it with the left hand. But the previous one, which is like mid-court, and he just cooks up something amazing out of that. And then when he gets like just much more comfortable, much more in the zone as a front runner, you could see it's going to be very tough to defeat him, especially because he just starts unleashing the full bag of tricks. And I mean, Jannik was definitely confused by maybe it's not like he doesn't expect it, right? It's not like he doesn't expect that Carlos is going to be trying everything, especially that variation of height, to try to not allow him to hit a constant, quality ball off the ground like he does. But will he be better prepared to handle it at Roland Garros? I mean, surely. It's still just the first event back, and the few matches that he played, they were stacking up.
Yep. I mean, just to go off that, I feel like the match didn't. I mean, it was kind of a sloppy match. I mean, it just took a while to get going in terms of finding timing, rhythm for both of them. But I mean, you also think like 15-40, 5-6, and it's like Sinner makes two very uncharacteristic errors. I think he went for like a backhand down the line at 30-40. So I just think that was interesting. And then it kind of bled into the tiebreak. He goes down a mini one, and then it's 3-love quickly. And then you just kind of, as you mentioned, just saw Alcaraz like growing in confidence kind of throughout every rally. And I think he wasted one set point, and then it was just a beautiful way to take set point in terms of, confidence going for a shot. It wasn't like he didn't set up the perfect net rush, but he committed to it and he went for it, and he pulled off the great volley and covered the net beautifully. So it was well deserved. And then, what I found is like once he found his timing on the return and, found himself getting into rallies, there wasn't really much that Sinner could do. I mean, you would have to overhit or find ways, because Carlos kind of just found his timing, his rhythm. And as you mentioned, like that's when all the variety and his full arsenal just starts to come out in front of our eyes. And it's just very, very difficult to kind of play catch up in that sense for Sinner. But, just definitely would have been interesting to see, Sinner take the first set for, I think, what was the fourth time in a row, and they're, consecutive meetings. And it always takes Alcaraz a little bit to either wake up or respond. And, that's just something that it's always interesting to see in those big matches, because, especially in a best of three, how important is that first set? I think our producer actually, posed that question. And I think maybe at like 5-all, like, how important is this first set? Obviously, it hasn't told us the winner in the previous three meetings, but, it ended up doing that here. And yeah, I think we're kind of left at the same place where, Sinner's going to have to, find ways to get more in his zone and more on his ball.
I mean, serving stats, let's remember, oh, and Valdez is actually talking about just that. Serving stats, I mean, they're just serving stats. It also matters what the opponent is doing, and matters what happens in the rallies. They really don't have to mean that you're serving well. I mean, Carlos was a very good default kicker, but Jannik had absolutely zero idea how to handle that. Sometimes he would fall back and barely make it, and sometimes he would try to like cut them early, like, I don't know, like Djokovic or like Hachanov at this event. And that also failed miserably. So, I think that the main big part of like Carlos's serving this match was actually the tiebreak, when he starts with two aces. I mean, how often does that happen?
Right.
And the third point is also a non-return serve, and then you have a double fault. So of course, sure, maybe it wasn't all perfect, but the net balance was still amazing. But I mean, Jannik was absolutely not handling the kick serve well, which, is like a bread and butter of playing Alcaraz on clay. Of course, he did that last year at Roland Garros, and so many of their matches are just the same. I mean, it's the first 30 minutes, it's tough to handle the Sinner offense, and then Carlos gets into it, finds a few ideas, and just rolls with it. That's how their last 4 matches have gone. It's not a guarantee that the next time they play, it's going to be like that. But I mean, it's a very clear, obviously, contrast in like temperaments between them, let's say, and also the fact that basically, Sinner has the best game on the tour right now, but Alcaraz has like the more, varied, versatile skill set, more tools in the utility belt, and he is able to, so far at least, kind of start dominating the matchup. It's also funny how it shifted, because at first, I mean, the rivalry was like, okay, so this guy Sinner is pretty good, but like he's not playing the other guys as well as he is against Alcaraz. And now it's pretty much the other way. So this guy Sinner is unbeatable, but then he comes up against Carlos and he can't win. Since Cincinnati, he's like, what, 42-2, and that's 2 losses to Alcaraz and 42 wins against other players. And that's just like a total 300, well, actually not 360, 180 reversal in their rivalry.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few things going through my mind there, because I feel like for Alcaraz, like, I feel like sometimes we doubt him after a loss to Goffin in Miami, and then he responds with a big title. I feel like he's done this quite consistently over the last, I guess, two years. And yeah, I mean, someone said it, and we put it up on the Jumbotron in terms of Carlos having to go through Draper, Musetti, Sinner, and Karen being like the hardest one. He gets up for the challenge, and with Carlos, I feel like he needs a little kick in the butt to get himself going. And I think the biggest takeaway, I think there's one more thing I want to touch on, I guess maybe part of the mental aspect, but also the physical aspect. Carlos took Madrid off, and, I wasn't too sure in terms of how he's going to come into Rome, but, came out firing, looked good movement wise. And, I don't think it was mentioned at all in any sort of press conference. And then I guess on the other side, Damian, the only thing I want to bring up with you is Sinner, looked totally, I guess, fine physically until maybe that second set against Alcaraz. Is there anything we can pull away from him? Obviously, he kind of passed every test that he needed to and got to the final. Just the only thing I noticed was he didn't really have the spark in him to go to the Alcaraz drop shots.
I think he was fine physically in the final. It was more the Tommy Paul semi where there were the moments when he said it was just a blister, but there was a couple of games where like he's not covering the forehand corner well. But honestly, I I just cannot be talking about Jannik's like body, physical cues, because there's so many of them that you don't really know what's serious or not anymore. Like, he just joined this group of players who are going to show you everything. Some of it might be exaggerated, some of it might be not. But like, you're not gonna be able to discern between the ones that you should actually pay attention to or not. So I think we never really know. But the thing is, like, he's still fragile,
Mm-hmm.
He definitely is still a fragile player in terms of physicality, much more than some of the other guys. And that's also a way to beat him. I don't know if Alcaraz has been using it necessarily. I think in their matchups, Sinner has been okay. Maybe outside of that third set in Indian Wells. Definitely nothing like that in Beijing. Roland Garros, they were both pretty hampered, I suppose. But in some other encounters, obviously, I mean, Australian Open, pretty much the only time we thought that Jannik was going to lose was when he and Rune were both in that sort of like ambulance situation, and best of 5, it might be more of an issue. But this week, I mean, he's shown time and time again that whatever the problems are, I mean, he does well to navigate them. And, well, I honestly cannot at this stage say if Sinner is exaggerating something or actually, is this hurt, because he tends to like limp between the points, kind of going to that, Murray school of old, where he was also just doing that and clearly was fine, actually. So yeah, I don't think he just conjures these things like out of thin air. I don't. Some people do. But either way, yeah, I think the Sinner physical state is very tough to judge when we're watching his matches.
Yep. I mean, it's I guess it's more of a conversation of the past. He's, obviously much more fit and shape for maybe a number of reasons. But any other comments on, Sinner, Alcaraz? Because I have a few more players I want to bring up. Any more comments on Sinner, Alcaraz?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, not really, probably. I mean, I think we did touch on the final. There was a whole conversation, even before this match began, of who's like the Roland Garros favorite. I think if we didn't get them playing, it would be Alcaraz for me, because we got them. I mean, the answer has to be the same. But yeah, I don't treat it as a guarantee, of course, that if they meet again, it will be exactly the same. I just think the best of 5 is if anything an advantage for Carlos once more. Just more time to potentially get into the match, more time to problem solve, and more time for Sinner to have some physical deeps. But as I said at the beginning of the stream, I mean, they are just far and above the rest of the field, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody else to beat them, because simply they are in another league, on another planet. And the more we get to see them coming up against each other, the more, I mean, good it will do to even like the whole world of tennis. I legit think some other players should be thinking Sinner Alcaraz should play in the final of this event, not me, because that is actually what people want to see. That is what clearly has this like grandiose feeling about it, and it's developing the image of a sport as a whole.
Yeah, spot on. One player who might have different, I guess, opinions than that would be Jack Draper. Had a a good showing in Rome. I'd say good. Lost 4-4 to Alcaraz, but it was kind of a interesting match in terms of being up a break, and then he loses 2 breaks in a row. Goes on to lose a set, and things kind of just got away from him in a sense. But he's one of those guys who's in that 22, 23-year-old range who's, just absolutely soared up the rankings this year, and, is just trying to become that all-quarter top 10 player. And I feel like, with his weaponry and, his size, his stature, he has that ability to do that. And it's been a great clay season for him. Good enough. What are your takeaways from his clay season, Rome, and any thoughts going into Roland Garros?
I mean, Madrid conditions, we knew they're great for him, but still a final has to be like, above expectations, more or less. Good Rome quarterfinal visit as well. he has to be in that cluster that we mentioned earlier, that players of like 3 to 10, let's say, in the power ranking set of the French. And to me, like, where he lands is kind of personal preference. Like, if somebody even wants to make him third favorite, I can't disagree with that. Personally, I would probably have him below Musetti, below Zverev, below maybe, let's say, next to Rune and Ruud, something like that. Maybe that's where I would place it right now, maybe next to Djokovic as well. But again, I think a lot of that is just so subjective and we don't really know. But the fact that he was able to pull it off in both Rome and Madrid, obviously that has to be perceived as a major plus for him, simply because the conditions are so different and Rome was not as suitable to the guy. And yet he still played very decent for a few rounds, survived a couple of tough encounters, and then of course Alcaraz, which, for a 6-4, 6-4 match, it wasn't that straightforward, let's just say. But still felt like Carlos always had the edge. And when he had these like 15-minute patches of insane tennis, Jack didn't really have too much of an answer. I think if we have more of a, best of 5 match between them, probably that gets even more accentuated. But I think I'm with Jake that I don't think there will be a winner outside of Sinner Alcaraz, not at all. But if these two guys fall, someone like Jack could be there to pick up the pieces, and he will be in the mix for that.
Totally. And I feel like, coming into the 2025 season, like he has to be so happy with, I guess, where he's at in the live ranking, earning himself a quarter, as they say. And I mean, one more, probably a couple more players, but another one that's in that cluster would be Lorenzo Musetti. I mean, I think going into the season, he had never been to a semifinal at a Masters on clay, and now he's done it 3 times: Madrid, Monte Carlo, Rome. And I mean, I feel like we're starting to see the Musetti that maybe people had predicted we would see. Just such a smart player. I feel like that's where kind of I start with Musetti, and just his overall presence on court. He's such a as you say, tactician. The guy has so many I guess weapons and tools in his locker that he consistently uses, just throwing so much variety at you, but really likes to play his own game and totally, I guess, outdid Zverev. I feel like that's like the match to circle because Zverev defending his Rome title, but just really just good patience at the end of the day, and playing to his strengths. But he's in that cluster, and on his preferred surface, a natural surface type of player. What's, I guess, how positive, how high are you on Lorenzo Musetti?
Interesting indeed that he hasn't won a title of any kind in 3 years. I guess it would be Naples then.
That's not true. He won Queen. No, he lost. He lost a
few finals. Yeah, he won Hamburg 22 and he won Naples 22. And I guess he maybe hasn't won since. Indeed, yeah. But he had a few finals and of course some big rounds as well. I mean, with Lorenzo, of course, he had a big chance for the top 10 during the clay swing, but you could think, oh yeah, he's gonna get there. But then the grass, his points are gonna fall off, and he's in trouble again. But actually, I mean, with what he's done here, the final in Monte Carlo, semis in Madrid, semis in Rome, I mean, it was pretty perfect. Such a tough game to execute. I think his game is really not easy even for him because, well, he has all the shots, all the tools, but how do you actually like choose what to do at a given moment? He has to kind of like attack off the back foot a little bit. Let's remember the Buyun Chaokete match in Monte Carlo, which could have gone differently. Ethnically Mongolian for you, Ghosty, especially for you. And if that goes differently, maybe we have a very different version of the Lorenzo Musetti clay season. But definitely someone who's amazing to watch when he's confident and so tough to handle when from the opponent's perspective. And the fact that he's going to have a top 8 seeding for Roland Garros, I mean, especially for him, it has to mean so much. Because the guy in the last 4 years, so the only years when he played Roland Garros, actually, so he's only 4 Roland Garros appearances. He plays the number 1 seed 3 times, and he plays the number 4 seed the other appearance. and he loses to all of them. All of that comes before the quarterfinals, and in all of these matches, besides the one against Alcaraz, he has a shot. Like, he's leading Djokovic, obviously famously in 2021, 2-0. Last year, he actually gets grinded down by 45-year-old Djokovic from 2-1 up.
Right.
So yeah, that's a bit of a shame for him for sure. That loss, and also against Tsitsipas, he was 2-0 up, I think. So yeah, I mean, he was kind of like the most unlucky player on the planet in terms of these draws. And now he has that chance. He will not be playing a fellow top 8 seed until the quarterfinals. He will not be playing I mean, yeah, that's a great opportunity. What he does with it, I don't know, because he's not the most consistent player on the planet typically. Simply because, yeah, he is a player who like needs to think so much on the court and needs to like choose the right game plan, is maybe a little prone to being crushed. But I guess in the best of 5 format, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's now or never. He's so young, he's so good, but it's an opportunity that hasn't presented itself to him before, or hadn't, and now, I mean, he really should be locked in on doing that. So good he's not playing Hamburg.
Yep. And I kind of like what you said there, because, right, I mean, now or never. Obviously, he's so young, but he's, playing the best tennis at the right time, and probably some of the best tennis of his career. But I feel like that's also rivaled by that cluster who is also maybe playing, some of the better tennis, thinking about, Jack Draper coming through the ranks, Casper Ruud playing, as good as he can at this point. So, I mean, like you said, though, that's so huge to at least avoid, any top contenders that late. And I think the best of 5 only helps him, such a physically fit athlete, and, just the ability to lengthen matches out, play so deep behind the baseline, just continue to give himself like opportunities and, ways to problem solve when that comes. But yeah, this is an event that, I mean, he essentially loves and, plays so well at. He's just had like tough run-ins the last 2-3 times. Yeah, I mean, that kind of like closes out that little cluster there. I mean, any other big stories emerging from Rome?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, Tommy Paul in the semis.
I was going to say, yeah, Tommy Paul, Alex de Minaur conversation can be had. Alex de Minaur, kind of interesting. Like, hasn't looked his best in the last 2 clay court events.
Really? I mean, he's still winning all the matches you expect him to.
Right.
He's losing to the better players, which is, the story of his...
kind of the story of his career. Yeah.
But yeah, if he's going to play Musetti on clay courts, twice, I do fancy Lorenzo both times. Tommy, I guess, is more winnable, but, it was also a matchup where he was leading like 5 love, I think, in terms of their head-to-head. But, it had to end at some point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're really not that far apart. So Alex de Minaur, I mean, we're going to see about the draw, but he's still so likely to just like win 3-4 matches and then lose to the first, like, prime contender, let's say. Hasn't had a top 10 win since last year around Garros. That's pretty telling, Bardland. I mean, you're throwing in some good stats, by the way. I'm not gonna fact check them, but I'm just gonna trust you. But that makes sense, right? I mean, he's just gonna beat everybody that is in his way, and is not like another top player. But when he actually comes to play these elite guys, that's when the magic kind of falls apart. And yeah, I mean, it's always going to be like that. He's done a tremendous job maximizing, well, not maybe maximizing yet, but let's say at least getting his game to be like at a much higher level despite the limitations. But yeah, especially on clay, I think maybe it's even tougher for him to break out of this. And, having such poor matchups against like Sinner, Alcaraz, it doesn't help.
Right. Yeah, I guess that was my point in terms of looked lost against Musetti, but that was a late night in Madrid, poor conditions. But then, yeah, as you mentioned, Tommy Paul, that's the last player I'm going to ask you about, Damian, before I head off and sub the producer in. But Tommy Paul, I mean, what an amazing set of tennis that he played. And we were doing the watch along, and it's like, if Tommy Paul kind of just keeps up this level, keeps his head bobbing, like, he has a chance in this match against Sinner. And then early break got away from him, and then it just didn't look the same after that. Any higher hopes for Tommy Paul going into this? For me, he doesn't really make that cluster, but he's right there.
Third
Maybe.
tier, sure. I can see that. Back-to-back Rome semis is a very nice achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Did he like do something incredible to potentially throw Sinner off his rhythm, kind of like Alcaraz can? No, but he's such a good athlete. He's so quick. The balls are gonna be coming back, and why he didn't like keep up in that match? Well, that's another question, and I guess nobody really can say because it was such a weird encounter. Then Jannik starts struggling seemingly. There's a small chance for Tommy to get back into it. He doesn't do it. But, he might be in like the fourth round, third round, and then we'll see basically. But he probably falls into another one of these like categories where, Sinner, Alcaraz, as long as they're in the event, he probably cannot win. But he does tend to have like a set or two that is very good against them. And, Australian Open quarterfinalist as well. I mean, he kind of should have beaten Alexander Zverev, or at least led 2 sets to love. He had major opportunities to win both sets, and then the tiebreaks are just like that. So, that's a guy who could have been in the Australian Open final. Would he have won it against Jannik Sinner? No effing chance, but he could have been in the Australian Open final, considering what we know of Novak Djokovic's fitness in that semi-final match. So definitely has to be looked at. I think I will be definitely like trying to see where he is in the draw. But just like many other guys, it's all about avoiding Sinner and Alcaraz first of all.
Yeah, as long as you can. And the last thing for me on Tommy Paul is, I guess, a tactic that does favor him, especially on the clay, is just like the physical fitness ability, that ability to, go 4+ hours. And, if he does go against, one of those, bigger contenders, can he grind out the match a little bit longer and, I don't know, at least help his upside and give himself more chances to win? But ultimately, another good Rome performance. Didn't have him beating Sinner, but definitely impressed by that first set. But thanks, Damian, for having me on, and
Thank you.
We'll be subbing our producer in. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Brenner. Thank you. So I guess my principal question is, how long have you got, Damian?
More like how long do I want to stay on?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Which is
That's all
probably
right.
not longer than half an hour, let's say.
No, that's okay. Half an hour is well within my thoughts. Oh yeah, Mount Rushmore time. In fact, it's funny, Jake, you should mention this because I actually have a broader question than Mount Rushmore, but that was something I was going to get in there. Is that there was a Mount Rushmore discussion during the Sinner Alcaraz match yesterday. Mount Rushmore, as in like talking tennis commentators, I think. And there was another one there was another variance on it, but Mount Rushmore.
Maybe chatters or
Yes, exactly, chatters.
Okay.
So
That's
it was
a good
me
one,
bringing it in, by the way. It was me before Jake, because it sounds like a Jake question, but actually it was my question. So among the chat, and of course Nurlan was floating around at this point. So
No, I think Nurlan has to be involved and Ghosty has to be involved. And it's kind of like
Ghosty is chiseling the Mount Rushmore. He's doing the chiseling.
Oh, he's doing the chiseling. Okay. No, but like if we want to have chatters, I think Nurlan and Ghosty have to be included, and then it's like a battle for the other 2 spots. Jake has been very consistent recently. There's like Jean from the past.
How do we forget Jane?
I was gonna say Jane is like maybe a little bit back in the past, but I think she has a case too, and Jean now. Dave has been very active too. Yeah, it's tough. For the last 2 spots, it's tough. I think Ghosty and Nurlan are kind of like, when I think of talking tennis chatters, Nurlan and Ghosty are probably the first 2.
Father and son, of course.
Yeah, and they've been here for so long, especially Ghosty. So maybe for that longevity aspect as well, he kind of deserves to be. Nurlan isn't a member, so since someone who's not a
I
member,
know, and knows Ghosty, but Ghosty has been a member. But the funny thing about Nurlan is he joins the chat and says, "Are you going to be a member? Are you going to join as a member or not?" And but I just think that Jane, I think when you get it to 2, and that's fine, and I think you've got to throw Jane in, and then it's up to 1 from 5 or 6, of which Jake is in the conversation, Gene is in the conversation, Dave is in the conversation. But I think you got to have Jane in there as well amongst the
the
3.
thing is she's not too active anymore, and
No,
like
but
I would rather have Jake there than Jane. Sorry, because I think he's just way more consistent right now, and you know.
yeah, but she's there.
I mean, she's definitely in the mix. Yeah, she's in that cluster, as we called it, Brenner. Yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of memories of her. Obviously, she was there for the streams in Bonn.
And she often says, and by the way, she may be listening right now because she'll say, "I'm lurking. I'm lurking." That was her favorite word.
When
Right.
Rublev
Well,
was winning his ATP 1000 titles, she was definitely hating my opinions. So I do
Gene as
remember
well,
her.
using a similar verb as well. All
Yeah,
right, there is another reason why I'm here as well. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to it's not up to me and you to decide the Mount Rushmore, is it
Rushmore.
Rushmore of it's up to the audience. And we had Jake. He was in a lather yesterday. He took Vanch off the bench. He put him on the bench. He put him on the Rushmore. Then he took him off so many times that Jake was getting very. There were 2 or 3 that he was pretty sure on, of
I
which
mean,
you
the
were
big
one.
question is, first of all, whether you are part of the conversation or
I was
not.
on
Like,
it. I was off it. I was off it.
yeah, but like maybe you don't count, is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
which is fine as well. But I sort of semi took offense to Jake, and Jake went, "Oh, yeah." So he sort of added me like this, but I was
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
screen.
I think just in terms of like sheer volume, me and Nick probably would have to be included.
I was surprised Jake didn't have Nick there. I mean, Jake used to be a huge fan, but I know that I saw a tweet from you, Mr. Davies, today going towards Nick about being an armchair fan.
I don't
That's
know
up.
if he's an armchair fan, but definitely, well, let's just say he's very pleasant to everybody. He's like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you've done well, even though
yeah.
you haven't.
And of
But
course, the big one is Iga Swiatek. That's you've done well. You've got to the quarterfinals in whatever tournament you're playing.
I think in terms of just, I mean, not only volume, obviously, also just like his whole body of work. But yeah, just in terms of volume, I definitely have Nick in there.
Fair enough. All right, listen. There is another sort of Mount Rushmore. Rushmore? Am I saying it right?
Rushmore, yeah.
Yeah, of things.
Who's on Mount Rushmore? Pop quiz for you.
The real Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
No clue.
I mean, you can probably guess, no?
Is it actors?
No, it's US presidents.
Oh, is it? Well, one was an actor. One was a famous actor.
Well, but he's not on Mount Rushmore. I mean, that was
Okay.
made a
So
lot.
who is on
before.
Mount Rushmore then?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it has to be Washington. It has to be Jefferson. I would say probably Lincoln is on it as well. And then who's the last one? Is it maybe Theodore Roosevelt? But I'm kind of guessing.
Someone in the chat also. Lincoln is apparently has been mentioned by some of our American audience. Anyway,
I don't know if I was right. I mean, but who else could be there? I mean, it has to be these 4, right? There's no way it's like Andrew Jackson. No. Ulysses Grant, Grover Cleveland, and even though he was president twice, like Trump.
Lyndon Johnson, I don't think quite made it either. Right. I want to know who is on the Mount Rushmore of 10 French Open ATP players. Who is the French
You mean
Open
this
Mount?
year? This year.
I mean, basically, I want to know the power rankings. Yeah, I mean, 1 and 2, I think is a piece of cake, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mount Rushmore isn't really like, there's no order, right? I mean, there is an
No,
order,
there isn't.
obviously, from
No,
left
no,
to
yeah.
right, but like you just have 4 heads, and you can say that, I don't know, the middle ones are more important, or maybe the ones on the outside are. But anyway, let's just do it like 4 spots, right? So Sinner, Alcaraz will be there.
But I
And
want to know
after
10.
that,
I want to know 10. I mean, I'm going off at a
oh,
tangent.
10.
Yeah, I want to do the. I
Oh,
want
so,
to do the
so
power
you're
rank.
extending the Mount Rushmore. I thought you only wanted 4 spots. Okay, 10.
No, I want
Yeah,
to.
let's do
Basically,
10. Yeah.
Damien, what I
No,
want to do
10
is
is easier. 10 is
I want
even
to do a
easier.
power rankings if we can, but we can disagree, and we'll basically, I'm sure,
Mhm.
after from 3 to 10, probably have slightly different opinions.
But 10 is easier than 4. That's actually good, because I didn't want to cut from 5 players to 2, and now we have like 5 easily. So yeah, I mean, obviously Zverev is in there, right? We can both agree on that.
Zverev is in it, yeah. But
Let's not. Maybe let's do it like this. I'm gonna say a name, and then you can say a name now. I said Zverev, and we both agree.
yeah, he's in the 10. But I would also like to know a position.
Oh, you also want to know
So
position. I
this is
mean,
not as easy as that, I don't think.
for me, he's number 3 still.
Who's the contender for him? Draper's a contender, like so 3rd spot. Draper's a contender. Ruud is a contender. Musetti is a contender. That's
Ruud
about it, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say Draper probably not for number 3. Maybe Musetti and Ruud. Yeah.
But do you know what I think? I think we probably would agree on the first 3. I think so. I think in that we would obviously have Alcaraz at 1 and we'd have Sinner at 2. I think that's just so. I mean, what would be the case? James would make a case for Sinner. For Draper to be at number 2, but there is no case for anyone else.
I was surprised, but Fergus, I think the other day, he didn't even make a case for Draper to be number 3.
Okay.
And I had to like shake his hand and tell him, "Wow, you're being reasonable."
I
For
think
a change.
wobble his head, but anyway, okay. Yeah, no, I think
I loved one of his posts when he was like, Katie Bolter won her first round match at that event that she eventually won, which she after she won it, yeah, I guess it's a great achievement. But she won her first round match there, and it was against somebody pretty random. And he says like, confidence building win for Katie Bolter.
Back the Brits. Yeah. Anyway. Katie Boulder is not in the top 10 of power rankings on the men's side. And
No.
Listen, if Nick, who is going to be doing it unilaterally on the women's side, and that's fine. I tell you what, I know we're going off at all sorts of tangents here, and I was hoping for, I didn't really care, but I was thinking about a cleaner end to the show, but it doesn't matter. I feel for Nick in terms of the WTA, because I saw him talking, and we should be doing ATP, I know, but I saw him talking with Jack yesterday about Swiatek in particular. And Jack is pretty dismissive of certainly Iga being number 1 in a power rankings, and maybe even her chances of winning the French Open. And yet, I still think that if I was doing it independently, I would be tempted to put Iga Swiatek at number 1. I would be.
I wouldn't. I think she's like 2/3 for me, maybe. Yeah.
So
I'd put her
Sabalenka
top
1?
3. Yeah. I think Arena has to be number 1. Yeah.
But I am super, I think, pretty neutral. I like Mukova and Ons Jabeur for different reasons, because I think they're sort of bridesmaids of women's tennis. But aside from that, I'm not really, I don't really have a huge vested interest in it. And yet, if somebody said to me, listen, I have Iga Swiatek as number 1, I would be like, yeah, I still see that argument.
I mean, you're going more on history than
Absolutely
what we're seeing right now. But yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. I don't think that Arena is like, as much of a favorite as Carlos is. Definitely not. I don't think Iga is as much of a favorite as Carlos is, which was wild some time ago. I mean, last year we definitely wouldn't say that. So, yeah.
Even the beginning of the clay court season, you would probably...
Yeah.
The clay court season begins, you've still got Iga as a warm favourite for Roland Garros. How hot you make her as a favourite is up to you. Carlos doubts, but maybe you have him as the favourite. But the clay court season is...
Iga just used to have 2-3 players she needed to avoid. And now she has 30. Like, if she gets a very
30?
pleasant draw... I'm exaggerating a bit, but
Yeah, but I wonder if you're also thinking of, like, I never thought in a million years Daniel Collins was going to beat her in Rome.
For example, I mean, do you want to see her playing, I don't know, in the third round again against Iga? I mean, that might be game over, with the way that she is right now mentally. She needs like a few easier rounds to get herself going, and then who knows, maybe. But I mean, the matchups that used to, at least we thought that they used to suit her, like Andreeva, the matchups that did suit her, like Goff, like that they don't anymore. Now they are also players to avoid. So it's not looking good. I mean, I wouldn't put her number one, but I still think she deserves to be in at least top 5 and definitely top 3 for me personally.
This could be me thinking, but I don't think I'm on my own here with Iga. There is the Rafa sort of thing, as in like, oh, Rafa didn't win Barcelona, didn't win this tournament, didn't play that well.
Never had a season like that, right? I mean, well, okay, when he had a season like this, he wasn't winning Roland Garros, but that was like 2015 already.
So the two years he didn't win it, 15 or 16, he was injured, I know, but still, that was still in that sticky period. Those 2 years in particular, his clay court season sucked as well, did it?
Yeah, but it was like much later in his career, so.
But then 17, he was back on the wagon.
Yeah, but 15, 16, we weren't expecting him to win the French, but the issues were very different. Like, I guess they were a little mental, but it was very different. Like, you could see in his game as well that he was just, like struggling to produce any depth, and physically wasn't really at, his sharpest. The rivals were much stronger. I think it's so different.
Anyway, Alcaraz 1, Sinner 2. Listen, I will have Zverev at 3, just like you, but I heard you talking sort of about something we spoke about, maybe on a stream, maybe privately. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But my point was that I just think that Zverev in this cluster is a word that you've used in other moments as well. Is so fluid that you could have Zverev at 3rd, or you could have him at 7th, and it wouldn't be as wild as having Sinner at 2 and 3.
Yeah,
is probably maybe what if someone had. There's no argument to have Sinner at 3. Just
the gap between the top 2 is extremely huge. Between the top 2 and the rest, I mean, is huge. And Zverev is just
Mount Rushmore number 3 candidate that I'm very firmly behind, Jane. By the way,
yeah, I mean, Jane, personally, I have to say, I don't know if you make it, but that's because the competition is so strong. But obviously, I did bring you up myself, I think, first. So
I would have Jane at number 2.
Davidovich Fokina. Whenever I watch Davidovich Fokina, I'm thinking of you.
So now it gets really tricky, I think, between 4 and 10. I mean, Djokovic is in the conversation for 4.
I mean, he's in the conversation for 3. Just personally, I wouldn't go there, but for me, I wouldn't place him 4th. No.
Who's your personal 4th favorite then? Is it Draper? Is it Ruud? Is it Musetti?
I think it's Ruud or Musetti. A match like last year, like what Novak had against Cerundolo and Musetti, he's not winning it this year.
Well, one thing we know about Ruud, bless him, is that he's not probably beating Sinner or Alcaraz. And I know you could say the same about Musetti.
The same about all of these guys, yeah.
Really? No, but Djokovic, Draper even.
No.
Draper's not beating Sinner on an amazing day?
Not in best of 5 play on clay, no.
Djokovic?
No.
Djokovic could beat Jannik Sinner
on grass with like an incredible serving day, but especially not Sinner. I mean, he can beat Alcaraz if Alcaraz is just like all over the place again, but no, I mean, he's not beating Sinner on clay, not in a million years right now, I think. For me, I think it's gotta be Ruud, just based on past history. I mean, do you think that Casper has a better chance than Lorenzo? And by the way, Sean, to your question about power rankings, I believe that we have to look at this as like who is the most likely to win the title rather than who is the most likely to go deep. But these two kind of go hand in hand, especially because right now we have this situation where it's all about like whether Sinner and Alcaraz are still in the event. So someone who is more likely to go deep is actually also more likely to win it, because by that point they might not be in there.
But I do know what the question means. At least I think I do, because I remember thinking again about the women's side is thinking Rybakina and Paolini as unbelievably well that Paolini is playing right now and has done for the last 15 months, and as nowhere near her potential Rybakina has been over the same stretch.
I'm voting Rybakina, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yeah. So if you said to me, who's going further in Roland Garros? Who's getting to the semis? One of these two players is getting to the semis. You're going Paolini, right? Who's winning it?
Possibly, but the WTA is much more open, so Paolini could actually win the event easily.
Paolini couldn't easily win Roland Garros.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no guarantee she's going to play anybody else like from the top 5, and she can beat these top 5 women. I mean, she just beat Goff, you know.
Yeah, but she
can. Best of 3 as well. I mean, yeah.
But can she beat? Let's just say, I mean, you don't always have to beat these players back to back, but let's just say she gets Iga in the quarters, because I think she could.
Yeah, but that's the thing. On the WTA, you probably aren't going to get that.
I don't know. I just think maybe I know what you mean in terms of it being a bit wild sometimes, but still, there's 15 players that are pretty strong, and I still would back Iga to get to the quarters. And I don't know, could Paolini beat Iga, followed by, I mean, even last year, Paolini had to beat, who'd she beat in the quarters? Did she beat Rybakina?
Yeah.
She beat Rybakina in the quarters and then beat Andreeva in the semis, and then that final against Iga. And has Iga fallen so far that you would make Paolini the favorite? I'm not sure. I don't think you would.
No, but she struggled this time. I mean, it wouldn't be like last year.
No.
She has struggled with Paolini since even.
Yeah, but she still beat her.
Yeah.
Paolini can win Roland Garros. Yes, Ghosty. I just think that
she just won Rome. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
On the WTA, there's virtually no difference. She can also lose. Honestly, she can lose in the opening round. She lands somebody with a high ceiling who is gonna redline. Why not?
It's almost it's. I don't want to get carried away with certain people in the past, but it's almost like a Maria Sakkari. It's Maria Sakkari unfortunately gets a horrible first round draw against Mukova, I think, in 2023, and she's out in the first round, I think in 3 sets, and I think it was close. I could be wrong on that. 2 sets, was it? Okay. But Sakkari is a French Open semi-finalist and very, 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 very close to being a finalist, and that's it. Right. Bringing it back anyway. So, did we go Ruud?
I go Ruud. I mean, I don't know what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I'll go Ruud as well. And listen, I'm more than happy. I was thinking about Draper, but there was something you were saying just before I came on, which was that, listen, if Ruud is beating Draper in Madrid, then. But you know what? I tell you what, I'm going to go Musetti.
Okay, that was my other idea.
So if you go Musetti 5,
yep.
And I'll go Ruud 5.
Sure.
And therefore, are we both going Draper 6?
I think so, unless you can remind me of somebody that I'm missing. And
Djokovic, Rune. I'm just going through the rankings now.
Yeah, let's go Draper 6.
And then Djokovic 7?
Or Rune, yeah. No, let's go.
Okay, who's winning? Listen, right now, in just under 3 weeks from now, Djokovic is holding his 25th Grand Slam, or Holger Rune is winning his first. It's Djokovic, I think.
No, I think it's Rune. I'm gonna go Rune 7.
Okay.
I just think the chances of Novak to win in Paris are almost none. Like, just physically, 7 matches, and Wimbledon. Okay, I'm gonna put him pretty high, but not here.
I'll go Djokovic.
Oh, Matthew, by the way, that would be a good candidate for Mount Rushmore. And now I just remembered that because he has this theory that Novak will have a good chance at RG.
He also says that Sinner's winning the Canada Slam. And you heard it here first. So if I go Djokovic 7 and you go Rune 7, because I think we both have Draper at 6, will I put Rune at 8? Because there is a guy here that I can see on my screen. Okay, there's a guy on my screen who I think is a candidate for 8. There's actually 2, but there's one.
I honestly, I think Rune should be 8, and then 9-10 is a big conversation.
I have another candidate from. So let me just try to think about.
I mean, you want to go Franz Cerundolo for 9?
No, I'm thinking about someone else for 8.
No, Stefanos Tsitsipas.
No. But there's an argument, but it's not him. No.
Then I guess Tommy.
No.
What? No, I mean, don't. Okay, Ben Shelton. No.
No. As much as I like Shelton, no.
No, okay. Anything you're gonna say now is gonna be pretty unhinged, I think.
You think Artifice is unhinged?
I love it, but I do think it's unhinged to put it
unhinged as an 8th favorite, a Hamburg 500 winner on clay, someone who's getting deep in Monte Carlo. Was he quarters or semis? Semis, I think, wasn't it, in Monte Carlo?
Quarters.
When he lost to,
Quarters.
Okay, he lost to Alcaraz, but okay, no big deal. The first set was.
I mean, I don't know. Just still,
he's
playing 7 good matches in a row. I love it.
He's in my thinking. He's so Fils or Rune for number 8 for me.
I love the intent. I think it's wrong, but I like the idea. I mean,
yeah. No, but if you think it's wrong, I don't know.
I would put Cerundolo in the top 10.
Oh, he's in the top 10, but just listen
I just
again.
don't know at which spot. Yeah,
lifting that French Open trophy 3 weeks yesterday, or 3 weeks, whatever, you know what I mean, 3 weeks from now. I don't know. It's crazy to think Rune's doing it. I think it's pretty closely equal to think Fils is doing it. If Fils and Rune are in that final, by the way, that's just an amazing final.
Oh yeah, but, I mean, I'd pay a lot to watch that.
Yeah.
Sean, by the way, are you forgetting Djokovic or are you omitting him? And if so, then why? If you could tell us.
I think when it comes to this conversation,
probably omitting him, I would assume. Yeah,
but Djokovic is a hard one because everyone else you sort of go, well, I go this, I go that. That's why I got them there, and we all debate it. I think Djokovic.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested. Oh no, he actually forgot Djokovic again.
Okay, yeah.
Never mind then.
But I think Djokovic could be anywhere between 11 and 3. I think he could be 3.
Sure.
If you put a huge amount of stock in,
you're gonna find people who will be like, Djokovic number 3. Djokovic or Iga more likely to upset week 1? That is a wild question, and actually a very good one. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I'm more interested about round 1. I'd love to see both come up against super tricky opponents in round 1.
I guess Novak is, yeah.
It's more about knowledge, though. I think maybe there's an opponent that Iga could play, and we just
there's a lot about like the draw will really decide this, but it's probably Novak. Like that was my first idea.
I'm going to go Fils at 8. You've gone Rune at 8, yeah?
It's just way more easy. We aren't down on Iga. It's just way more easy to lose a match. I mean, she almost lost in the second round at the French last year, you know? Osaka held a match point against her in the second round, and then she won the title.
Yeah.
I mean...
You're just more vulnerable. I mean, okay, butterfly effect and all the rest of it, but Carlos probably loses a couple of those slams that he won, and who knows, maybe I don't know if he would even win one. He maybe have 2 slams less if it's best of 3.
Possibly, yeah.
Quite possibly. Anyway, I'll go Fils at 8, and I'll go Rune at 9.
Okay.
Who have you got at 9?
Yeah, I guess I'm fine with Cerundolo 9, Fils 10 for myself.
I'll go Cerundolo 9. So who have you got at 10? Fils.
Fils, yeah.
So who am I missing from your class, from your group?
You must have done something.
Yeah, probably.
Weird.
Yeah. I'm gonna write in the chat. I'm gonna go. Well, I don't even need to write Alcaraz also. Who have I got 4? I've gone Ruud at 4, I think. Who'd I go at 5? Maybe I'm missing 5.
Well, when did Cerundolo last lose to anyone outside the top 20? That's
I
a
went.
question for you.
Maybe I went Musetti at 4. I went Musetti at 4.
I
did
know
you?
when that happened. It was Santiago to Draper, so it's been a while. Fonseca hasn't been mentioned and won't be mentioned. He's not in the top 10 of
Not in the top
contenders.
10.
He's not nowhere close.
I've gone Musetti at 4, Ruud at 5. Who'd I go for 6? I think I went Djokovic 6.
Draper.
Oh yeah, Draper. I think we both went Draper at 6.
Yes.
And I went Djokovic 7. Did you have Djokovic in your top 10?
Yeah.
That's my 7. Then I went Feast 8. Yeah. And then 9. Okay, 9 Runa, 10 Cerundolo.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I wish I had a spot for Tommy Paul. That's somebody who
I wish I had a spot for Tsitsipas. I know you're going to think.
And I was gonna say I wish I had a spot for Tsitsipas as well, but I just don't.
Tommy Paul, I don't.
That's 27-11, by the way, Dave, because he's already defeated Martinez in Hamburg for Fran.
Oh yeah. What's the hell's going on with Martinez these days? By the way, I thought he was really good.
Wasn't it the same last time he got to the top 40?
Yeah, I know. I get there's a ceiling, but
His whole season has been pretty non-existent.
So, do we have any differences in our top 10 in terms of personnel? I'm not sure we do.
In terms of names, no.
It's Tsitsipas for me. That's the one. I think. Like Fritz is world number 4, but in a million years is he winning the French Open? I mean, he could get super lucky with a draw and get to the quarters, maybe semis. Dimonor, same. Roof and ceiling and all the rest of it. I feel similarly about Tommy Paul. I think, but Tommy Paul, did he beat anyone in Rome that we were like, wow, I can't believe he's beaten that clay dog?
Demon, I guess, but that's only because he was 0-5, and it's not a clay dog. Yeah, I mean,
No.
if you mentioned the phrase clay dog, then no.
Yeah, that was intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, I was already starting to say that, and then I heard the words.
Yeah.
So otherwise, probably not. Obviously, it was Hurkacz in the quarters.
Yeah, that's pretty
Zverev not in the top 10, Dave. Wow, that is big.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former finalist, former semi-finalist in 2021, I think it was. Had a 5-setter with Tsitsipas that year.
22.
22 as well,
thinking of
semi-finalist. Yeah. I mean, this is the slam he's come closest to, right? This is his pedigree slam, if anything.
Yeah.
I know.
He can lose early, but like all of these guys we have in our top 10s after Sinner Alcaraz can lose early.
But who's he losing too early, really? Like
last year, he had a very tough match against Rune, very tough match against Griekspoor. 4-1 down in the 5th set, double break to Talon.
Yeah, but he's probably not playing Talon that early. I mean, Talon.
This time, I mean, yeah, Talon isn't in like top 32, is he?
Okay. This is. Yeah.
Or like if he is, then he is barely, but I don't think he's just out.
Yeah, okay. I guess he could lose early, but I'd be surprised if Zverev isn't in the second week. Whereas there's other players in this cluster we're looking at right now. I mean, is Hatchnov going to be in the second week?
With Korda Ghosty, call me by Wimbledon. Like by Wimbledon, you can ask that question. Right now, no.
What's his question about Korda? He doesn't like Korda, I know.
No, he just, wants us to say that he's a dark horse again. But yeah, we're going to do that at Wimbledon, right? After he has a good performance in Queens, and then he's going to lose in the opening round to, let's update it. So it was Veselin, Petri Pericard. I guess now it has to be like Medjedovic, maybe, someone like that.
Who is the dark horse? Because I think that, first of all, they've got to be not seeded. Secondly, if they're not seeded, but they've been in a semi-final at Roland Garros before or something like that, then
Arnaldi, if we're looking off that list.
Did he win today, by the way?
He did, but I also don't really know why he's playing Geneva.
Sonigo.
No.
I mean, this is someone who you think could, with a nice-ish draw, make the semis. I think if that's our sort of.
I don't think you're gonna find that player among the unseeded guys. You know.
Zizou Bergs ranked 49 in the world. Wow, that crept up on me. Yeah, Jacob Fernley 54. What is going on in the world?
I mean, he's only gaining points until
He won today as well. I saw that.
July-ish. Echeverry, former quarterfinalist.
Yeah.
Novone, even though he's almost out of the top 100.
Is Marajan? Is he the?
No.
He's a quarterfinalist. Is Tabilo even playing? I know he's said he's playing.
Quarterfinalist sounds okay. Like that could happen with a very good draw. Sorry, but Tien is not a good win on clay, Ghosty. No. But he might play,
Nishikori or
yeah.
No. Especially as close as it was. Yeah, Gene here's got his. Let's have a look at his. He's got Djokovic at 4, Musetti 5. Yeah, so it's funny. He's got the same 10 players, albeit in people are not even right the number 1 and 2, and that's fine. But
I think a lot of people are going to have the same 10 players. Some aren't going to include Cerundolo. Some aren't going to include Fils. Some maybe will not include Rune, but the top 7-ish is probably going to be the same for almost everybody, just in different configurations from 3
I
to
think
7.
you've got to have Djokovic in there somewhere. I think you've got to have Musetti in there somewhere. Ruud's got to be honest with you, Ruud even more than probably some of those other ones has got to be in there somewhere. Draper's got to be in there somewhere. And then, Fils, Ruud, Cerundolo don't have to be in there somewhere. I think Tsitsipas has a case. Tsitsipas's case is, I think, pretty strong.
I mean, the case is history only.
Yes. And he's making quarters probably if draw is okay. And he's also done well this year on a hard court in the Middle East, doesn't he?
In February, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
February. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
think Kecmanovic won Delray Beach in February, and yet I don't see you putting him in the top.
No,
10.
because he's not been in a French Open final before and been 2 sets up on Novak Djokovic, and hasn't basically been, the Prince of Clay potentially in waiting. Whereas Tsitsipas, despite a sketchy couple of years, if he's gonna do it somewhere, if he's winning a slam, it's the French, right? Tsitsipas.
He's not winning it, but yeah.
But if he's
actually, I mean, at this stage,
Australia,
how is Alcaraz gonna be like not in the mix to beat him or Sinner? I know he has a good matchup against Sinner, seemingly, because they basically haven't played, and the only time they played since the post-Puke variation of Sinner, then Sinner was injured, so.
It's unlikely he beats Jannik. Carlos. It's a
and
one.
King of Madness is also like good. It's good to mention Rune, Fils. These are also guys he hasn't beaten.
Yeah,
it's all the youngsters basically. He can't play them. I already know what's gonna happen when he faces Fonseca for the first time.
Really? You have that much faith in Fonseca
against Tsitsipas?
Yeah,
I mean that's a perfect matchup for Joao. No.
On all surfaces or
anywhere,
hard or play?
Anywhere.
Well, fingers crossed we get it in round 1.
I think Fonseca is the favorite if we get it in round 1. Even though he was pretty weak in Rome in Estoril.
I just think that
Tsitsipas is so beatable. And it's the same with Rublev. I think Fonseca-Rublev rematch, Fonseca is the favorite too.
Sure. But we've seen that, and we saw it in straight sets in in Melbourne and all this, but yeah, I see that now as being a 60-40 or 55, but it's still 55-45, isn't it, against Rublev?
Who?
Fonseca Rublev.
You mean right now?
Yeah, if they play each other, let's say the French Open first round.
Okay.
It's just Fonseca hasn't done himself any favors the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, sure, but I don't know. These guys are just so vulnerable to his game. I think that probably it won't matter. Like the conditions won't be that important. Wouldn't have imagined this chat about Tsitsipas 3 years ago. Yeah, I guess 3 years ago we still would have been sitting here and thinking, well, probably by now he's gonna have a slam, and maybe
Oh,
we're talking about him like a Daniil Medvedev type, but no.
3 years ago as well, we were going into this French Open with him on one side of the draw, and the rest was
Oh
crazy.
yeah, that was his
Basically, he was in the
chance.
French Open final, and we were just seeing who was going to play against.
That was his chance indeed. Yeah,
And he would have
Holger
probably,
Rune came along.
yeah, Holger Rune, yeah, right, yeah. I'm interested to see if Tabilo plays, because I saw him giving some grief to a Latin American media outlet that said he was not going to play through injury, and he was very quick to bite back. But I got the impression that he was biting back, but also still wasn't going to play. Yeah, he's got the talent to do decently well on this surface, and in fact, probably with health, could have been and should have been seeded. Yeah, João Fonseca, I'm just not sure. I just think the last few weeks, these losses are a bit weird. I'm not doom and gloom about the rest of his career. I just think that right now, if he plays Tsitsipas in the first round, I'm favouring Tsitsipas. If he plays Rublev in the first round, I'm leaning Fonseca, but with less confidence, funny enough, than I may have done, certainly in February, that's for sure.
No, I think he's crushing Tsitsipas.
Really?
I've seen all these.
Oh, I want this first round or
Tsitsipas
second
matches.
round.
The youngsters know exactly what they want to do against Tsitsipas, and like all that pace coming into the backhand. Jesus Christ, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
I'm here all for it. Jumur, by the way, he's been creeping up the rankings without me even realizing it. Last I remember, Jumur.
Ah,
Last I remember him having a meltdown in Bonn last year. I have seen him on my radar a couple of times since, but I don't remember him
6
having
challenger titles last year.
Okay. What some of those were post Bonn, I guess. I thought he was in a really shitty place.
Definitely Maya, Istanbul. At least 3 were after Bonn, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
He won 2 first in the European clay swing, so it was like Barletta, Ostrava. I think Santo Domingo is after Bonn. So at least 3 were after Bonn, 2 before, and I'm not sure about the 6th. Yeah.
Probably the highest ranked player right now in the rankings that played Bonn. By the way, what's happened to Landalusa?
He won today.
Did he win? He won his. Oh yes, that was one other thing I want to speak to you about. I mean, most importantly was the power rankings. And I think we're done on that. I know what was going on in qualifying up until about 3:00. I saw Senor Tomic won his encounter. Is Cilic today or tomorrow? Cilic tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Okay. What are the other headlines from French Open qualifying? I know that Andreescu won with a double bagel.
Yeah, I didn't see a ball of the women's event, so yeah, I know Bianca won with a double bagel.
And the
Landalusa was the last match on both competitions, so that was pretty fun. He struggled with some like shoulder thing for a while. He couldn't really serve, but I think his ball striking was outrageous for the last few games.
Fognini lost, but also to Alcaraz, so that kind of makes me feel a bit better. But
I mean, it's Fabio Fognini right now.
I know, but last match,
to do anything.
Last match of his, is that the last match of his career, or do we...
I don't know. I don't know if we have confirmation what the last event is going to be. Ramos Vignolas did win, who is also playing his last one. Barrer announced finally that he's retiring at the end of last season after losing today at the end of this season. There were a few of these like massive first rounds that everybody was watching out for.
Wow, what a day for Bonn Challenger players, with Hassan and Landalusa winning as well.
Maximilian Marterer also won.
Marterer won as well, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But the Bonn Challenger, by the way, is changing location. I didn't even realize until today. From one side of the city to the other, from one side of the metropolis of Bonn to the other. Anyway, Benny Hassan. Wow, 6-5 over Kotov.
What are we wowing about? Kotov is atrocious this year.
Yeah, well, just Hassan winning matches at this level is something, and there's only 2 away. Who's he going to play next? Do you know, Hassan?
It's a section where he can qualify.
Oh,
because it's
look,
one
I
where-
thought there was a spring in your step, Mr. Kust. Klein one.
Yeah, then Odin was injured, and it was still a mess.
Okay. But there wasn't something else. Oh, yeah, that's what I'd say about the fact that, okay, Fonini lost, but Albaran, nice guy. Any words on the Fonini loss to Albaran?
No, I mean, at this point, I really don't expect much of Fabio. He is definitely calling it quits at the right time, I think. You know what he did last year, winning Alicante at the end of the year to make top 100, like it just doesn't seem achievable anymore.
No. Oh, Van Rijthoven. He lost the second set 6-love. I hope it's. I mean, I wasn't expecting big things from him anyway, but I just hope that 6-love set is not him limbering around the court.
It's basically him not being much sharp at all. I mean, the last time he played was Australian Open qualifying.
Matt Sharp is fine.
He's just picking up the checks, I think. It doesn't seem like he actually
Really?
I don't know. I mean, how can you think different? US Open qualies, then Australian Open qualies, then Roland Garros qualies.
Yeah. Burachaga, told you. Said he's the likely one to emerge from that sector.
I mean, he's gonna play Ramos Vinolas now, so that's kind of like the biggest showdown in there. But you know, beating Lestien, he was a big favorite.
Was he a big favorite of Lestien?
Yeah. Constant didn't play any clay warm-ups. He just went to Asia.
Galbas, yeah, I remember that one happening when I was on the stream earlier, coming from behind to win.
That was much tougher than expected, considering Ajdukovic is like 0-8 on clay this year.
Okay.
Alex Bolt almost snapped that losing streak on clay since 2019. He had 2 match points on serve.
Oh shit, he's not won on clay since 2019.
Yeah, it's 17 in a row now.
Oh fuck, that's painful.
Yeah,
2 match points. Has he? I guess he hasn't had match points in the previous 16, but that'd be interesting to know.
Probably not. I didn't look at that, but probably not.
I wonder if that's going through his mind when he's got those 2 match points. Boyer beating Rincon. There's a few players.
Boyer's gonna play Gaubas now.
Okay, Boyer's playing Galbas, is he? I don't know if you've heard of this guy, August Holmgren from Denmark. Won Porto last year. Good to see him.
I mean, he was playing Casson, who played 1 match on clay in the lead-ups and lost to Jan Kumstad in Prague. And yeah, I mean,
when you touched on Holmgren yesterday, actually, I mean, it was a pretty brief touch. I was wondering about him on clay. I don't know if maybe he's more comfortable on the hard court, bearing in mind he obviously had his stint in the US, didn't he?
I think he's okay, but yeah, probably maybe like a faster one. I think he had a really good run in Braunschweig 1 year when he was just like net rushing everything. But this time, now he seems to be playing a little different, and I don't know. It's just such a weird state that his game is in right now. Like without the Porto points, he'd be, I don't know, I think outside the top 300 maybe even.
Oh, wow. And Mr. Tomic, anyway, it was a match that you said I won't be watching. He did.
I did
win.
actually, yeah.
Did you? Yeah, you got tempted.
No, just because I saw that was working out pretty okay for Bernie. He never like was bothered on serve at all. Coleman obviously not a clay court either. So I think the courts were also playing pretty quick today. It was sunny, so that helped out Bernie for sure.
Other names that spring to mind here, or at least jump out at me, Ethan Quinn getting a straight sets win over. Is it Layal? Do you say Layal? From that part of the world?
These are actually going to be playing each other. So Queen and Tomic, and then Miller, Kopyans, and both these matches. I mean, you know, blockbusters. Tomic probably is just gonna lose to Queen. That sounds like a horrible matchup. But Miller, Kopyans, that's really good.
Okay, why are you excited by Muller, Kopyans?
I mean, Albert Miller just won Huerash and has an incredible backhand. I think Kimmer's level has been very good too, just losing some tight matches. 2012 French Open boys singles champion.
2012 what champion?
French Open boys singles champion.
Okay.
It's been a while, I know.
Yeah.
Always a good tidbit. You
got to clutch wherever you can. And then finally, we've got Kim losing, the Swiss against Gigante, and Tirante also winning in straight sets. What's going on tomorrow that we should really be?
Queen Tomic is on Wednesday, Ghosty, because tomorrow it's the rest of the round one
exactly,
matches. So tomorrow is, of course, the biggest one of them all. So Chilich Wu. Otherwise, just more action.
Hoinski Zepietti is not on your radar of biggest matches of all time.
No.
Okay. By the way, there was a question. It sort of was on my radar, but there was many other things going on. Faria is still injured, I guess, right?
I mean, I don't think he was. Well, isn't he like?
Because he's main draw, right? If he's there,
isn't he in the main draw? Yeah.
But I don't. I don't know.
I mean, he hasn't pulled out.
Okay. Okay, so maybe he's just going to give it his best shot.
But is he in the main draw is the question now. Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's not going to be for Wimbledon, but he is for Roland Garros.
Yeah. Just that it's various injuries with Jaime at the moment. It's 1 minute, it's an aching arm at one point, funnily enough, in, I think, Rome it was, that he was suffering from, that actually meant that I think, did he even finish the match in Rome that he was playing? And then... No. Yeah, right. And yet I saw Jose Morgado saying, listen, he is there waiting as a potential lucky loser if needs be. But there's been other issues with his body as well that makes me a bit concerned. But we'll see. Rocha, his good friend, of course, 5-0, is up against Bertrand tomorrow. What are the matches? Eubanks, Rodionov, Nagal. Yes, that's an interesting one against Kruger. I think you spoke about that a bit during the preview. What's the match?
Kruger just made the ORH final, so that's why we were talking about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
What do you mean? What was the question? Sorry.
Just matches that you're particularly pumped for tomorrow.
Vacherot Taberner looks very good. I mean, that's just like a 50-50 clash. One a very natural clay quarter, the other less so, but actually Vacherot is considered a slight favorite. BD Harris, I guess. Dan Evans, actually, that's not bad either. I mean, they're both kind of out of form, but it could be pretty fun, I think.
Dan Evans, what's his ranking now?
180, 170, I don't know.
Okay,
so it's guessing, to be honest.
Because I just saw that there was no wild card or anything beside his name in terms of qualifying. Because I just thought that he might be really plumbing the depths, but. Okay.
Garin, whether he continues the Mauthausen/ORH form, Basilashvili, whether he continues.
Where did he get to in Mauthausen, Garin? Did he get?
He won both.
Oh, he won Mauthausen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, Henry Squire, another Bonn massive guy. Blancano wasn't in Bonn; it was in Porto that we saw him.
Another French Open champion, 2016, boys singles, Blancano.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. These juniors, they're just not, Federer apart. It's just not necessarily a sign of certainty.
I mean, if you see how Blancano plays, I always say there are two types of juniors, the ones that are just blasting heavy, massive shots and making 100 errors, and the ones who are just like very nicely all-rounded, consistent, and well, you can guess which ones make it.
Yeah, sure.
Well, so just to be clear, Joao Fonseca is a recent Grand Slam champion as well, right?
Sure. Are you saying that the blasters are more likely to kick on?
Oh yeah, like these are the ones. That's the base that you want to have, and the other things will come. But all these guys, like for example, Coppens I mentioned, that year there was Luke Saville, Liam Brody, Philippe Palivo, like they're all the same player really. And neither of them, made it big. Of course, Brody made it to the top 100, Coppens briefly made it to the top 100, but like Saville is good in doubles. But yeah, I think guys like Blancano, they never really had a shot.
Just thinking the live chat for the first time for quite
Jessica,
a while.
By the way, we have on the screen another Grand Slam champion and another one that, just doesn't have the weapons. Van Asch as well, another Grand Slam boys singles champion. So,
I mean, I guess because the window is pretty short, but we do seem to have a fairly nicely, it's not like we have. You're not going to win too many singles at juniors level, right? Slams I mean, you can't win 5, for example, or
Stefan Edberg won the calendar Grand Slam in 1983. Gael
Okay.
Monfils was on his way to do the same, but yeah, it's very uncommon to win more like than 2, maybe.
yeah.
Sean, no, sorry, not Sean. Dave Carousel qualified. Yes, he beat Herber and Bertola.
Oh, he's won 2 matches, Carousel.
He qualified for the main draw. Yeah.
Okay, in Geneva, is that?
Yes, gonna play Marozsan tomorrow.
Yeah, I've actually.
Main draw
Sorry.
debut at the age of 31.
Wow. What's going on, by the way? Why is it the men's 250s and 500s this week, probably Djokovic apart, are a little bit, lacking in interest? And yet I saw quite a few exciting matches coming up or have taken place in Strasbourg on the women's side.
Not really. I mean, first of all, there was never an ATP 500 before a Grand Slam. Like, that's
Which is
literally a
just silly.
first.
It's just silly.
And well, that's just not really going to work in the long run, clearly, because
Just
they just aren't going to get the same names. On the WTA, you can possibly physically pull it off. On the ATP, it's tougher. Although, actually, in recent years, we've had a lot of players going, playing a tournament just before the French and then going deep. Dominic Thiem, Novak Djokovic, Casper Ruud.
Djokovic, yeah.
But clearly, most of them didn't want to do it in Hamburg. And then Geneva, I mean, you have Djokovic there. Ruud usually plays it, just pulled out this year.
Right. I think it depends, doesn't it? For say Ruud and Djokovic as 2 good examples, it just depends on what's going on. Let's just say Djokovic, for example, has had a stop-start period of his career. He's at a certain age as well. And I remember that year in 21, I think, when he played. Did he play Geneva and maybe
Belgrade?
Serbia?
Belgrade, yeah.
Yeah, Belgrade, yeah. It just depends, and who knows if Sinner didn't go out quite so early if Sinner goes out early. So it just depends. But generally, if it's a normal sort of clay court season, then of course you're not going to be playing that week.
Some players do pull it off a lot. Like Casper Ruud was, I know this year he pulled out, but many times he played just before the French and still went deep. Dominic Thiem used to do that a ton. So I think it depends on the players as well. But yeah, typically, I mean, especially this year, if not for the late wildcard for Zverev, Hamburg would be kind of, well, don't want to put it,
there was a day when, and even half an hour or an hour, when it was like one of those Twitter accounts, like these players are pulling out and these players are going in. And it was like a bunch of like top 20 players pulling out of Hamburg all in the space of a very quick space of time.
No, but it was just like, because on Friday you've got the draw. I don't remember how it's called, but basically the moment when you have to withdraw before the automatic, like, I don't remember how it's called. No, the draw ceremony was on Saturday, but basically so that you avoid like the punishment for withdrawing late.
Okay.
There is a deadline, and it's Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern time, I think. And that's when that was announced. But I actually think Sinner pulled out a few days before, but the organizers probably kept him in just so that they sell more tickets. I think that is literally why it's done. I mean, there's no way that Jannik was still thinking, if I lose to Tommy, I'm gonna play Hamburg. Absolutely no.
Yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. All right. Well, cool. Lots of shows coming up, including the French Open draw, which will be on the channel on Thursday. These draw ceremonies do tend to be pretty cool, and I can see Gene as well pretty excited about that, and rightly he should be, because I think there's lots of questions that hopefully will be answered then. In the meantime, do make sure you hit the like button. Do make sure you subscribe. Loads and loads of stuff. But there's loads of things been going on in the live chat that I've neglected. I do apologize. I was getting quite caught up in a few things. Cell versus Malajan. What's this? Cell versus Malajan. I might check out Cell a while couple. Is Malajan in Geneva? Is he?
He's playing Carousel.
Oh, I see. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. First round. That's nice.
That's the worst draw that Karu could have gotten.
Yeah, but isn't there also a best draw? Like, as in, like, I mean, maybe not Marozsan, maybe Djokovic.
Gakov was really tired. He was playing his 14th match in 14 days, I think. So I think that would have been amazing if he played him. Marozsan, we'll see. I mean, Fabi is so wild that he could lose to Carousel, but no, probably not.
No. Yeah. What's going on with Mo? Haven't heard his name in a minute, says Ghosty. Michael Mo.
Well, he was injured for a while, but he's back now. He played the green clay swing. I don't think he had any red clay warm-ups, but he's pretty decent on clay. If he was in slightly better form, maybe he'd be a contender there. For now, let's see. But against Emery, it's like a 50-50 to me. Need to hear Mo, yeah. Mo money, Mo problems.
All right, well, on that bombshell, a 1 hour, 45-minute ATP Weekly, a little spontaneous end to it. Hopefully we sort of managed to find an ATP Power Rankings top 10. I think it's kind of, do you put Tsitsipas in there or not? And then the other 7 players, eight players, I would say, is you can choose your order. And if someone puts Zverev at 10, maybe we could argue against that. But I think, could you put Ruud at 3?
I guess.
Musetti at 3?
It really doesn't matter who's number 3. All it matters is Carlos Alcaraz is number 1 and Jannik Sinner is number 2. And for somebody else to win it, unexpected has to happen.
And if it's an Alcaraz-Sinner final, Alcaraz is a pretty warm favourite, right? I mean,
for the time being, yeah, depending on what they do during the French, but
even if Alcaraz has a super bumpy journey to the final, as long as he's physically okay.
Yeah, given it's best of 5, I suppose.
There was a question that was posed, I think, at the end of a show of the day. I think it was on Friday night previewing the finals. And it was like, I was more concerned of a Sinner blowout. I think it was like if there's a blowout. If it's because it wasn't quite an Alcaraz blowout, but scoreline 7-6, 6-1. It looks like if that scoreline had happened for Jannik, I would be like, I don't know, I'd be a bit worried about where we are with tennis in a way. I was a bit worried after that Ruud scoreline in a way.
I wasn't.
Okay. I was panicking.
I mean, that's what he's been doing to anybody for the last 6 months, but Alcaraz.
On that bombshell, we will see you all very soon, at least for the draw on Thursday, but probably for 1 or 2 streams in between. And yeah, in the meantime, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.